Hey there, my name is EW Buckley, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Tomorrow is April 4th, or 404 Day, which is a bit of a holiday in the music production community devoted to celebrating the Roland SP404. I've been a huge fan of the SP404 for years, and its cultural impact is worth celebrating. It's one of the instruments that helped establish performance effects as a valid performance technique across a whole swath of genres, and so I think it's worth discussing on this channel. But there's one problem. I don't own one. So instead, to celebrate 404 Day, I thought I would remake some of the most famous performance effects from the SP404 in Ableton Live. Then we can combine all of them into one SP404 style performance effect chain as a single rack, and you can use that in your own music. Now, if you want to get my entire collection of SP404 inspired performance effects, including some really popular ones that I just wasn't able to fit into this video, then consider subscribing to my Patreon at the artist tier. You'll get instant access to all of them, and it's something that I plan to update in the future. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So let's figure out what effects we want to recreate. And my advice for you, if you ever want to do this, is to find the manual of the plugin or piece of hardware that you want to recreate, because it's going to explain to you exactly what you need to do. So I have here the SP404 Mach 2 manual pulled up, and it is a beefy boy, 174 pages of beef, as it should be. It's a great instrument. But if we go down here to the appendix, we can find the MFX list. So I am going to click on that. And now we've got, look at this, how every single one of these effects are meant to work. And so let's start with a stone cold 404 classic, and that is the Isolator. To do that, we are going to go ahead and pop over to Ableton Live, and I'm going to grab EQ3, because the Isolator effect is essentially just a bandpass filter on the mid-range frequencies. So let me A/B this on and off, and you'll hear exactly what I'm talking about. And that's really your classic Isolator effect. So let's go ahead and group this on itself. And I'm going to map the device activator to macro 1. And we're going to just reduce the number of macros to 1, because that's all that we're going to need. So let's open up the mapping menu. And we're going to set our minimum to 1 and our max to 0. When you do this with the device activator, this will essentially set it up so that, presuming that the toggle just goes on, meaning that the macro goes above 1 or above, then your device is going to turn on. We can toggle on the device just by engaging the macro slightly. And so if we close out the mapping menu and I hit play, but we have this entire range of the macro that we aren't really using for anything. So let's actually make this a bit more expressive. And to do that, I am going to grab a copy of Reverb, and I'm going to place it after EQ3. I'm going to disengage both of the cuts. I'm going to set my size to 5,000 milliseconds or 5 seconds. And I'm going to crank up the reflection and the diffusion. And I'm going to map the device activator for the reverb to our first macro. I'm also going to map the wet dry to our first macro. And then I'm going to map our crossovers on EQ3 to our macro as well. And then let's open up our macro mapping menu again. We're going to spend a lot of time in here today. And for the reverb device activator, we're actually going to set the minimum to 25. So the effect isn't even going to toggle on until the macro reaches 25. And then we're going to cap out our dry wet at 50. And then for our crossovers, we're going to set our low crossover minimum to 250 hertz. And then we're going to set our maximum just 1 octave higher to 500 hertz. And then for our high frequency crossover, we're going to set our minimum to 2500 hertz, and then our maximum 1 octave lower at 1250 hertz. So pretty much what that means then, as this macro engages, first we toggle it on, our effects are going to kick in, And then we're going to slowly tighten up the bands so that it becomes narrower in the frequencies that it allows passing through. And then we're going to let that reverb come in, and it's going to essentially create this really nice mid-range wash. So we can just toggle this on and off as like a momentary isolator effect, but then we can create this deep reverb as well. So let's listen to that. It's pretty cool. And now we've taken a very classic 404 effect, Isolator, and we have kind of leveled it up a little bit. So let's go ahead and call this ISO verb. And then we don't need to see the devices anymore. And boom, our first 404 effect knocked out. Let's do another. So now let's build something that's inspired by multiple 404 effects. And so let's go ahead and do something that's inspired by downer, which is going to slow down the playback speed. And then also let's kind of combine it with a few other things. I want to combine it with, oh man, there are so many effects in this instrument. It's why it's so popular and so cool. We're going to combine it with backspin, which gives the effect of a record spinning backwards. And then we're going to combine it with some of the pitch shifting effects. And so we're going to combine these three effects into a single macro control. And believe it or not, we're going to do all of this with just a single effect. So I'm going to grab a copy of Shifter, my beloved Shifter, and similar thing, I'm going to group it onto itself. So we're going to turn on the delay, and we're going to switch it over to milliseconds. And I'm going to go ahead and map the delay time to macro 1, the feedback amount to macro 1, and the device activator to macro 1. And let's go ahead then and open up our mapping menu. So similar thing for the device on, minimum of 1, maximum of 0. For our delay time, we're going to cap the max at 500 milliseconds. And for our feedback, we're going to cap the max at 20 milliseconds. So now let's go ahead and close this out and get rid of all these extra macros. What's going to happen is as we increase our macro, we're going to increase this delay time and we're going to increase the feedback. And it's 100% wet. So it's going to have this effect as if we're almost slowing down the audio. We're really just delaying the audio, but it's going to create that backspin like effect where if we do this relatively quickly, it's going to feel like we're slowing down the audio and reversing it. So super fun. Now to really kind of, hammer this one home and to knock it out of the park, we're also going to map the course to macro 1 as well. And let's pop back in the macro mappings menu. That is, I'm honestly surprised it's the first time I've stumbled on saying that when recording this video. Anyway, let's set our minimum to 0 semitones and our max to -12 semitones or 1 octave lower. And so now it's going to really feel like we are slowing down a vinyl. And this just feels like instant vaporwave. It's super cool. Since it's a combo effect, I'm going to give it its own name. And you know what? I'm going to call it the Vaporwaver because that truly is what it is. Show hide devices. We're going to toggle that away. We're 2 effects in. Let's keep it going. So the next effect that I want to build is inspired by one that I think is really cool, but maybe isn't super known. And I know it's kind of towards the end here. Bingo, cloud delay. Adds multiple delays to the dry sound as well as reverberations for a thick, cloudy effect. Heck yeah, we're going to do pretty much the same thing. So I'm going to grab our tried and true stock delay, and you know the drill. We're going to group it onto itself, and we'll map the device toggle. We're going to map the freeze control. We're going to map the filter modulation, and then we're going to map our wet dry amount all to macro 1. While we're over here, we're going to set the mode to jump, and we're going to engage ping pong. And we're going to set the default feedback to 95%. And then over on the filter, I'm going to set it to 2500 hertz or 2.5 kilohertz. And we're going to set our width to 2.5. So now let's open up our macro mappings menu, and 1 and 0 for our activator min and max. And then our freeze, we're going to set the minimum to 80. I don't want the freeze to engage until we are most of the way through the effect. And this is going to really hammer home that cloud-like feel. We're going to set our default filter modulation to 10% and our maximum to 50. And then we'll leave our wet dry at 100. So it's going to start to really add in this big delay that's going to be really assertive because of the 95% feedback. But then at some point, it's going to freeze and just become this washy cloud. Super, super cool effect. And so to wrap up this video, let's build what's probably the 404's most famous effect, and that is the DJFX Looper. This effect loops the sound in short cycles. We can absolutely do that. And so to make the DJFX Looper, I'm going to grab our tried and true friend beat repeat, and I'm going to group it onto itself. I'm going to go ahead and turn our device activator to macro 1. I'm going to turn the chance to 0%. I don't want this thing to trigger itself. Instead, I'm going to toggle the repeat button with our macro. And so now let's just pop into our mapping menu and set both of these to 1 and 0 because they're just buttons that I want to toggle on. So now, just by engaging the macro, we engage the beat repeat. The sound is a little crowded, so I prefer to have the ins set, which means that when beat repeat is active, it is only going to output the actual effective beat repeat. Now, this is the one effect where we're actually going to take advantage of multiple macros, but we're only going to use 4. So for our second macro, I'm going to go ahead and set the grid size. And now we should probably start naming these. So I'm going to call this repeat. And this is the grid size. At the maximum amount, we can pretty much just use it as a 1-bar looper. Hence, DJFX Looper. I'm also going to turn on no triplet. The other 2 macros we're going to use to engage the filter. So I'm going to leave the filter on by default. And for macro 3, I'm going to go ahead and set to the filter frequency. And then macro 4, I'm going to set to the width. And this is where we start to get some really kind of performative, interesting possibilities with this. So I can loop a single bar and then play with how I'm filtering it. And you can already get the idea that this is going to be just so useful for like refreshing the ear palette. really quickly, right? Or creating awesome transitions between sections. Such a versatile effect, and there's a reason why it's like the most popular 404 effect. So cool, we can go ahead and close this. Now let's do a quick bonus one, because I know that the DJ Looper can in fact reverse the playback of the audio, but Beat Repeat can't do that. However, there is a Max for Live device that is included with Suite called Pitch Loop 89 that does. Pitch Loop 89 is one of my all-time favorites. And so what we're going to do is we're going to increase the segment size for both the left and the right channel. If you just grab the left by default, it's going to adjust both. We're going to increase it to 50%. And then I'm going to just bring our position to 0. And then I'm going to hit this back button so that it plays back in reverse. And we will group it onto itself then. And I'm going to map the toggle to macro 1 and our wet dry also to macro 1. And we'll bring this down to 1 macro. I'm going to call it reverse. Open up our mapping menu. Just make sure to set the min 1 and the max 0. And so now this one will go ahead and reverse the playback. It's so cool. It's already so cool. So we can close that out. And now let's also adjust our delay/freeze effect here. Turn off our chains for that. Ditch our macros. And now we can go ahead and create a rack. And the reason why I've gone through now and set up each of these effects as their own individual racks is because a big part of using performance effects is figuring out how do you want them all chained together? Because the order is going to matter. And I'm actually going to now create a larger rack in the order that I have it. I think the Isolator is a great first effect, and then the Vaporwaver, the Freezer, and then at any point I can engage these effects and then lock them into the DJ Looper, reverse it or filter it, let go of the effects, let go of the looper. That makes it really performative in an awesome, interesting way. So I'm going to highlight all of these and group them together and then do a similar thing. Map to macro 1, map to macro 2, map to macro 3, and then we're going to do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now I've got an awesome 404 effects rack, which is so cool. So let's go ahead and take this for a spin, and then we'll wrap up. Well, what do you think? Did I do the SP404 justice? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're at it, consider subscribing because I've got a lot of cool videos on the way. And if you want these effects and some other classic 404 effects that I didn't even get a chance to show, like lo-fi or vinyl sim, then consider subscribing to my Patreon at the artist tier. You'll get instant access to all of those effects, my massive backlog of presets, and new presets every single month. That support is how I keep this channel going. But thank you so much for watching. That it means really most of all to me. And I'll see you next time.